That was a warm welcome speech. Thank you, Archana. Now it's time for the main session. As Archana mentioned, Jayprakash sir is here. He's going to take the webinar. Sir, please start the session.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just present my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hope you are able to see my screen. Is my audio clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's audible.
Great. So, thank you very much for the opportunity given to me, and talking with the kids and all. I'm really happy in the morning talking to the kids. So, good morning to all, and my introduction is already given. So, my name is Jayprakash. I'm the CEO of NetPhoenix IT Solution. So my passion is not only my company, like software, more than the teaching is my passion. So the amount of experience which I have, which I would like to give it to the kids like you to take it up to further. Let me see what we are going to discuss today and who can learn these things. So I'm going to talk about the Python and the introduction of Python. So who can learn? So people who have passion to computers and they are interested in coding. Of course, a love of learning people are there, then they can learn. And what are the prerequisites? So here the prerequisites, I said 12th grade pass, but that is not correct. Actually, even 8th grade pass can do the Python course because it's so simple. And you should have a minimum laptop with 8 GB of RAM. That is sufficient. And of course, you should have a good internet connection to browse and to watch these kind of videos. So what is that I planned today is these are my content. So one is I would like to give the basics of Python. I'm not going to talk about too much basics, when it is invented, who invented and all those. So that is the Python basics, and a flow control and functions and how to handle the errors. And we'll write one small fun program. It's basically a kind of a game program. Okay, so let me just move with each and everything I just try to cover in 10 minutes. So I'll just see whether I can do that. Okay, great. So before getting into Python, okay, so we need to know what is this Python. So the Python, all of you know, it is a programming language. So what is special about this Python? So this will let you work very quickly and integrate with multiple systems more efficiently. So I have worked with multiple languages like Java, C, Perl, many languages I work. So I find Python is very efficient, and you can integrate with many other systems very quick. What are the different advantages we have? If you look at the advantage, so Python has extensive presence of third-party modules. For example, if I say libraries, there is something called NumPy. It is mainly used for numerical calculation. And you have a library called Pandas, which is used for data analytics. Today, if you take any data analytics or artificial intelligence, and Python is the number one. I think you have R is another language, and Python. These two are almost competitive. But why people are moving to Python? Because it is so simple. And it is an open source and community development. So that means you will have tremendous support. If you get into Stack Overflow, the amount of support you get, even for small errors, people put their doubts, they'll be able to get the answer from them. It's very easy to learn. It is not so complex and all. It is just a simple kind of English. There's nothing much to about it. And it's a very user-friendly. Data structures are there. If you take languages like C and all, if you get into a data structure, finally you will go really mad. But the Python has very user-friendly data structures, and this is a very dynamically typed language. What do you mean by that, dynamically typed language? So now in any language, for example, if you take C or C++ or any other language, when you declare a variable, you have to say what type of the variable you have to declare, integer or whether it is a float, like that you need to declare. But Python is not like that. So it depends on what is the value assigned to that, it automatically takes the data type. This is called dynamically typed language. So this is very, very useful when you are writing the code. We will come to know that. And of course, this is a pure object-oriented language. You can write a tremendous object-oriented approach and the terminologies and whatever, you know, the object-oriented things, you will be able to do it. And it is very portable and across the operating system also. So like, it is not only Python can be developed only in one operating system. You can either Windows or on Mac or Linux, anywhere it is portable. So these are the very few advantages which I am talking, but there are a lot which you can browse in the internet and you can find it out. But this all I thought it will be very essential, you should know. Next, when it has come to, you know, okay, these are the advantages. Then what is that I can build with this Python? So there is a GUI application you can build, so games application, and there are lot of scientific applications are built using this Python. And there are beautiful web frameworks and very, very powerful web frameworks like Django, Flask. These are the different frameworks which will be, you can write an application on that. You can build an enterprise and business applications, and of course operating systems. So operating system, if you look at Linux operating system, so there are around 50 to 60% of the code nowadays it's in Python. So that is the power of Python. And you can develop a language. So in fact, I have developed a language called Expression, which is completely a kind of a C kind of language using the BNF, CBNF. I've tried it. So you can develop your own language. It's that much powerful, and you can do a lot of prototyping using Python. So now we can also know who all are using this Python. Okay, now we are saying that they can do all these steps and these are the advantages, and who's using it. So if I learn Python, can I get a job in, you know, the bigger companies? So if you look at Google is using Python, where it is using the Google search engine. Whenever you search anything, that the search engine, whatever the information you are typing, that information is searched through this Google search engine. Most of the code in the search engine is written in Python. And Yahoo uses for its maps, YouTube, and Mozilla is another browser. It's a good old browser. They use Dropbox, Microsoft. Cisco is a network management company which has Cisco devices, and they manage all the devices and all those stuff. So I'm just giving you a few examples of, you know, what are the different organizations are using this Python. So overall, what I would like to say is Python is a very, very great language. Learning this language, it will definitely, you know, will have a lot of add-on to your career. And then when you complete your college, you will know, once you know Python, people will grab you. So that is how the Python nowadays. Fine. Okay, let me stop the theory. Let us get into the, you know, the actual practical things of how we can work on Python. So first thing is, if you want to work on a Python, the Python need to be installed in your machine. That is your laptop or the machine, whatever the machine you are using it. So what you need to do, just get into this python.r. So let me just show you the python.r. So you just go to this python.r. So you can see this is the Python website. You can just do a download. There are many versions for Linux version and Mac versions, and you can look at here. Different versions are available. You can also see here, you can provide all the Windows, Mac and other platforms. Even you have the source code, you can download the source code and compile it for your environment. Suppose if you are using some other Debian or a Red Hat environment, you can compile it. But it is not that too difficult. So nowadays all this Linux, Unix and all comes with either RPM or with a Debian package. So you just basically have to say apt get apt install and the package name, that's it, the job will be done. Same thing for Mac. And of course for the Windows, you just unzip it and python.exe will be, just the Python will start. So the latest version is Python 3.1. So generally if you have a system, by default Python 2.7 may be there in some of the system like Ubuntu and all. So 2.7 is obsolete now, so maybe please move to 3.x, that version. So that will be useful. Installing is, as I said, installing is very, very simple. Just follow the instruction. It may be a 2 to 3 set of commands. It will install the Python into your system. So now next, let us get into Python shell. So I have installed Python in my laptop. So I can just, hope you all are able to see my screen. The font is also, but okay, let me just increase a little bit. Okay, now this is the system I have. I just type Python because it is installed in my system. When I type Python, you can see I have a Python 2.7. So this is an older version. I am not going to use this version. This is, they stopped support. So now I want to use Python 3. So I have installed both in my system. So what I am going to do is I just say Python 3. Suppose if you have Python 2 and 3, we can just do Python 3. So that means you will be Python 3.8.5. Now I am going to use this particular version. So when you type Python 3, you will get a prompt here. So it says that this is the version and all the copyright details, and finally this is the prompt it shows. This is actually a Python shell prompt. So the meaning of the shell, what do you mean by a Python shell? So Python shell is basically which is used to execute a single Python command and display the result. So that is where this shell is coming to picture. So there is a terminology called REPL. Okay. So R stands for read, E stands for evaluate, P stands for print, and L stands for loop. So this is the terminology. So basically what do you mean by that? It reads the command and evaluates the command and print the result. Again it go back and again it start waiting for the reading command. So that is called REPL. So let us see some few commands, we how to do that. So now here, for example, there is a function which I want to print some name, or I want to print hello world. So there is a function called print. So print off, so simple, it is like in a normal English. So print within quotes, you say hello world. So you just press enter. So you can see here the terminology what we have said, like it just read it from that, it prints it, and again it comes back and it waits for the input from the user. So you can, like this, you can, any commands, okay, any variable declaration and all, you will be able to practice in the shell itself. Shell is for mainly practicing and the small commands to work out, but actually you need to have an IDE. Let me come to that. So here, for example, let me just get into a little bit of variables. So we need to understand some part of a variable before getting into any programming language. So what is a variable? Variable is basically just a container for storing the data values. So any kind of data, for example, I have a variable called name. So is equal to, I just say JP. So the meaning here is name is a container which will store the value JP into that. So when I press enter, so nothing is happened. What happened is the name which contains the value JP. Now let us print this. I say print of name. So when I do that, so you can see JP is getting printed here. So that means the value JP is stored in the container name. So when you say print that name, so it automatically prints the value which is stored inside that container. So this is how you will be able to print the name. It is not only the string. This is basically a string which I am giving within a quotation. Suppose if I have a number. So for example, I have a number called Mark. Mark 1 is equal to, for example, 60. And I can say Mark 2 is equal to 70 or 79. Okay, so now these two are type of field. For example, these values type of field. So as I mentioned, this is dynamically, it will understand depends on the value what the variable is. For example, this one is an integer value. Okay, this is the type of field. So you don't need to specify integer mark and all. You just say mark 1 is equal to 60. The Python will have the intelligence of understanding this is an integer variable. This is a string variable. Okay, and also you can do a calculation. For example, I want to print mark 1 plus mark 2. So I can do print of mark 1 plus mark 2. Sorry, I had a mistake, spelling mistake. So you can see I just printed, so it gives the adding of those two numbers. So you will get the result of it. So like that you can do any kind of a simple calculation to understand and all those things. So let me get into some more detail. For example, you want to find the average. So how do you do that? For example, average. Just give a name of the variable, any variable. So I can say mark 1 plus mark 2. I can say divided by 2 to find an average. So now what will happen? These two values are plus and it will be divided by 2. Whatever the result which comes here, this will be stored in the container called average. Now let us print the average. So we can see the average of 130 is 65. So this is how you can do the variables, assigning values to the variables. So it is not only that, you can also have functions can be used here. For example, you have a value 3. So for example, float, there is a value 3. This is not a float value, this is an integer value. So when I say float of 3, so you can see now, so 3.0 is written here. That means this is a float value. So when you declare a value a is equal to 4.0, the meaning is automatically the a is become the type of float. So how do we identify that? We can just say type of a. When you say, you just say this is the type of class float. Same thing, let us try the mark which we created. Type of mark 1. You can see this is the type of integer. Same way we can try name. So I can say type of name. See, it's a type of string. So you can see it just gives the whatever the type it is. Automatically from the value which you are assigning to that variable, from there it will identify that variable is a whether integer type or a float type or a string type. This is very, very fantastic. Is that? Okay. So this is about, I just want to give just an outline about, shell. So in this shell you can also use a function, like how I used a type function. The same way there are some function called int. For example, if I say number is equal to, if I declare like this, within quotes, if I say declare like this, it is a 3. Then I have created some c is equal to, again I put 4. Now if I say number plus c, you get 34. That is not right, but here it is correct, because the reason these two are treated as a string, when you add these two string, it will be 3, 4. But how do we convert this string into an integer? It's very simple. So we can say, for example, you have a number. When I say number is equal to, I can say int of, or I can int of. Any string can be converted like this. Now when I say that, now the number is, if you look at the type of number, you can see this is a type of integer. So same way you can convert these two into a integer type and you can do an add. So it is not only integer, you can convert the numbers into a float, and you can convert the number to a string also. So for example, if I say AA is equal to, I say 34. Now we know this is a number type. So if I say str is for the converting string to a number to a string, str of AA. So when I say that, we can look at here, it comes with the double quotes. That means it will be converted into a string. This is just an outline of how you will use the shell and what is the kind of what you mean by a variable in all these stuff. So we cannot do program in the shell itself. So shell is basically for some kind of a practicing, and there are some certain commands you want to check it out and all those stuff, you will be able to do it. But what do you need if you want to write a Python code? So you need to have some kind of an IDE. So there are many IDEs are available. For example, you have a PyCharm is an IDE. It's one of the good IDE. There is a community version, and also there is a paid version. So paid version is quite expensive. So generally some of the people use Python and some people use idle. So I like Visual Code. So there's a Visual Code, I just go to that site, you will know. It just code.visualstudio.com. So when you type it, you get this. This is a very, very beautiful editor. This has a lot of extension for Python and Python related libraries and all those stuff. It's not only for Python. This editor, you can use it for any programming language. It's very, very beautiful, even for Java, for C or C++. And you have all kind of extensions are available. Whichever extensions you wanted, you can just add those extensions to this. Okay. So you just download one of your version of whether it's a Debian or RPM, you can download it. It also provides for Mac and Windows and Linux. So whichever operating system you are using, download the stable version. So there is a stable version here. you download the stable version and install it, and definitely you will enjoy this IDE. The idea of IDE is it makes your life really easy. So in the sense, we can focus only on coding. You don't need to focus on syntax error and all those stuffs. All those stuffs will be shown by the IDE. It will guide you when there is a syntax error. It will tell you there is a syntax error. So it's easy to correct. Otherwise, if the IDE is not there, everything you have to understand. You have to code very carefully and all those stuffs. So instead of focusing on the coding and logic, you will be focusing more on syntax errors and all those stuff. So I would recommend always use a good IDE. If already you are using some good IDE, that's fine. But in my experience, I found this Visual Studio Code is really a fantastic IDE. Okay, now let us see. We'll write our first simple program, and then we'll see how our IDE works. So I'm going to start. I have already installed the Visual Studio Code. So before that, what I would like to do is I just come. Okay, if from the Python shell, if you want to come out, just press Ctrl D. It just comes out of the Python shell. Okay. So now I've created I'm going to create a directory. Create a directory webinar. I get into this directory. Here nothing is there. I put ls-l. You can just see there is. I don't have any files. Nothing. We are just going to create it. So there is a command called code. Code is nothing but Visual Code. That the IDE I'm going to start. Code and dot is nothing but open from the current directory. So I just put a code and enter. So now you will be able to see my IDE is started. So I have nothing in this. It has a welcome screen. So now let us see a simple code. That is our first hello world, how to write it. Okay. So I'm just going to create a file. There is a new file. How you can create it just by clicking it, give the name of the file. Maybe I can say welcome.py. Py is an extension for Python. Always you should specify the extension .py. So once you've done that, so you can create any kind of command. So when you take a shell, the shell will execute one command. So you execute a command, then you execute a next command. But you want to put a sequence of command and you want to execute it, definitely you need to have an idea and you put all the commands in a file. So now I'm going to say print. So see, when I'm typing print, automatically the print comes here. So all the whatever the options are available for the print, everything will be shown in the IDE. So you don't need to worry about how the print syntax is. So it will be shown by the IDE. So it will be so easy for you to type it. Okay. So I can say welcome to Python. So I can say another print. Good day. Okay. So I've just typed 2 lines of command. There are 2 print statements. Now I am going to run this. So how do I run this? So when I go to, you can open a terminal here itself. You can say new terminal. Basically this will open a terminal. You can execute your commands here. So now I have a Python. When you type Python, you can see here I've already installed, as I said, Python 3.8.5. So I'm not worried. So I just come out of it. Let me run this program. Before that, I need to save this program. I just save it. I can say Python. And name of the program we've given welcome.py. Okay. When I press enter, you can see there are 2 print statement. Whatever I've given inside the print statement got printed here. So now you've done your first Python welcome program. I think you are able to. I think you all are comfortable now. At least you know how to write a program. So basically, you need to install Python. And you need to have an IDE, and then in the IDE you give the name of the file is .py extension and type your command and just run it. It just runs it. Okay, fine, great. Let me see the next slide. What is that we are going to learn about it? So now we are going to learn about a flow control. So let us try to understand what is a flow control. Okay, so till now whatever we are doing is we are making the Python to execute all the instructions. So that is what we are going to do. So in the flow control, what we are trying to do is we now make the Python to choose which instruction to execute. So that is basically using some kind of a statements like if, else and all those stuffs. Now let us see how we can use this if else and how we can make the Python to choose which instruction to execute it. So let me write a simple program. So for example, I'll remove this, I'll write it in the same program. Maybe you can write it in a different program in a different name, but I write it in the same program just to save the time. So for example, I have name is equal to Bob. Okay, then I'm just saying then if name is equal to, I can say equal to means I want to compare these two, is equal to, if it is JP, then I put a colon. Let me explain all these stuffs. Print, I can say welcome, and I can want to welcome whichever the name I want to enter. I can say name. Then once it is done, I want to print out done. Okay, so now let us understand a little bit about this code. So now here the first line is whatever I did is have a variable called name. For that I have assigned a string Bob. Then I have a statement if the name is equal to JP, if the name, whatever the name you assigned here, if that is equal to this particular string JP, then you say print. So you can see here, whenever I write if statement, I have put a colon here. So the meaning of colon is once you put a colon, that means after that you are going to write a block of statements which will be for this particular if statement. So that is what, nothing but a colon. So I given a colon. So if the statement is true, then whatever is, this is one single indentation. So you use an indentation. Python mainly work with indentation. So for example, if I say another print, good day. So now when this particular condition is true, if the condition is true, these two statements got executed. That means this block is getting executed. So all the block which comes under the if, I created a single indent, a single tab. You don't need to give a tab. Basically when you are using IDE, the IDE itself will automatically move to that particular cursor position. And then this is once that is done, you just, I want to say print done. Let us see, we'll execute this program and what is happening. And we will also diagrammatically understand that how this program executes it. So now I will say Python, the same welcome.py, the same name I have given. Just press enter. You can see I just got the message done. So what is happening here? Okay, let me copy this code. Okay, we will see another interesting thing. So there is a, there is a Python tutorial. So there is a, you can say pythontutor.com. You just go here, then normally you put this particular URL. You can see the visualization of your code, how it is getting executed. It's very easy to understand in any language. So it is basically they have support for Python, Java, C, C++ and all. So because we are using a Python, so I'm just using the Python tutorial. So I've taken the code. I'm just going to paste this code. You can also say which version of Python you are using, because we are using Python 3.x, so I'm just using 3.6 itself. Now let us do the visualize execution. I'm clicking on that. Now we can see here the left side, now the cursor is here. Basically first it goes to this particular statement. The right side it gives the output. Whatever the output comes, the output will be given here. And what all the objects are assigned here, everything will be shown here. Let us see, I just do a next. When I do a next, you can see the cursor moved from here to here. That is the first cursor, first line is got executed and the name contains Bob. Now we are going to execute this particular statement. Now when I say do a next, you see if the name is equal to JP means it get into this block. Because it is not equal to JP, then it just goes here and it just print done here. See, now you will be able to understand how this print statement execute. Now let us do one more little bit of small change in our code. So let me get into our code. So if we say else, if it is not there, so you say print, I can say you are not JP. Okay. Now when I execute the code here in the editor itself, you can just look at here. I'm just executing it. So now we can say this is saying that you are not JP and done. So now what's happening? Let us just cut this code and we'll go and run this code here. So I'll just go to edit code, just paste whatever I then made changes, and I do the visualization. Okay, now let us run. When I'm running this, it goes to the first if condition. So if as a condition, if the name is equal to JP, no, because we've given Bob. When I do next, it goes to the else part of it, and it goes to the else block. When I do a next, you can see you are not JP is come, then it comes the end of the program, the print, the done is come. So it's very easy to understand, how this if and else works. So hope you guys understand how these if, else and all those stuffs will work. Now let me get into one more code which we can do a little bit of more else if also. So there is a if we've seen, there is a else we have seen, there is something called else if. Suppose if we have multiple condition, so how do we do that? So I'm just having a program. What I will do is I will just copy this program to save the time, and I will explain the program. So now this is the program I have. So this is a very simple program. Maybe here there's a name I have, the same thing, and I've given an age of 10. So you look at here, I'm just initially I'm printing the name. Then if the age is less than 30, then I say print you are a kid. So if the age is greater than 100, then I print you are very old. If the age is greater than or equal to 30, then you say you are not a kiddo. So I'm just printing some if condition. So let us run this program here and see what's happening. So when I run this program, so now we can see here you are a kid because the age is 10. Here you can see I've used else if. So previously we used if and else, but here I've used else if. That means you can have another else if age is greater than 100. So there is another condition. You can add all these conditions. At the end also you can do a else command. So you can use a if, else if, and else. Okay. Let me copy this program. I'll paste it there and see how this works. So let me just edit this code. We copy this here. So for understanding, it will be very, very easy. So I just do a visualize. Now let us run this code. I just do a next. You can see here. Now we can say the name, and you can see there is a name container as Bob, age container as 10. When I do a next, it comes here. So because we have the print statement, welcome name, so the welcome Bob is printed here because name is here. Now I do a next. It just checks age is less than 30. Then it just prints your kiddo. Then that's it, the program ends. So hope you guys understand how this simple if, else and else if works. Okay, good. Let us move to the next part of it. So there is something we will understand, how this loops works. So what do you mean by a loop? So if we say loop, so suppose you want to execute the same code over again and again, then you will be using a loop. So now let us write a simple program to understand how the loop works. Okay, I just go to the editor, I'll remove all these steps. So you please create a new file. So I'm just, for the easy purpose, I'm removing the existing code and I'm typing overwriting all the new code. So you don't do that, you can create a different files. Okay, fine. I just have a variable span is equal to 0. I just assign a variable is equal to 0, and I'm going to write a loop. For that I will be using a statement called while. So while span is less than, I say 5. I'm going to give a colon. Now I'm just going to print something, print off, and I can just say hello world. Then now I'm going to increase the span is equal to span plus 1. So what is that here it is happening? Let us understand. Let us first run this code, and what is the output it comes, we will look at output, then we will go and try to understand this code. So now I'm again running this code. I press enter. Wow, we've got 5 allow hold. How this 5 allow hold came here? So let us cut this. Let's go to our visualization tool. Just paste it here. Now let's see the visualize execution. Okay, now initially we have declared a variable, the span is 0. Okay, now I'm just say next. Now there is a spam variable that contains 0. Now if the while, if the span is less than 5, if it is less than 5, then you print this hello world. Okay, let us see what's happening. So yeah, it is less than 5, it's getting into that particular while block. See, now it just prints a hello world. You can see here the hello world is printed here. Now I'm just going to do a next. Now we can see the span is equal to span plus 1. So span is initially 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Now the span will have the value 1. You can look at here, the span value is 1 here. Now again I do a next. I just print the second hello world. Now the span will increase to 2. You can see here it increased to 2. So like that you can do 3, and you can do 4th, and you can do 5. Now we can see it goes here. It is less than 5, but the span value is 5, equal to 5. So it won't get into this particular block, it just comes out. You see, it just comes out. So now how this while works? So while, and you provide this condition. So it depends on this condition. If the condition is true, for example, if the span is less than 5, so this basically it returns a true or false. If this particular condition is true, it executes this block. If the condition is not true, then it just won't execute this particular block. So this is how simple, we can use the while loop. Let us write another simple program to get a little bit interest of how getting a password, something like that. So I have a code which I have already written. Let me just copy and paste it, and I will explain that to you. It's a very simple code. So I have a password. So when the user enters the password, so the password is secret. If the password, while the password is not equal to secret, that means it is not the right password, then you again and again you ask the user enter the password. Okay, so now let us run this code and see what's happening. So now here I am going to run this code. So it says ask enter the password. I will say, for example, test. Now it say again, it says enter the password. But if I type secret and I say enter, it says thank you. So now you understand, I think, hope you all understood how this particular while works. Okay, fine. Now in this while, we need to understand there are two more things. So there is something called infinite. Okay, so now as I said, this while, whatever the conditions you are specifying, this condition, it returns only whether it is a true or false. For example, in the Python prompt, let me show you Python prompt. If I say 2 is equal to 3, when I say this, it says it is a false. So when you use any comparison operator, so what it does is it just executes this particular expression and returns whether it is a true or false value. So suppose if I say 2 is equal to 2, see, it returns true. So now what I'm trying to do is, so Python has a value, Boolean value called true. That is basically capital TRUE. This is the true. You can see here, this is how it is going to be printed. Okay. So now you can also store the value A is equal to TRUE. You can store the value like that. So that means if you do the type of A, you can see it is the class type of the Boolean type. So now I'm just going to do a small program which get into an indefinite loop. So while we know it has a condition, it will return either true or false. So I just put a true and I just print one statement, print hello. Okay, let me save this, and if I'm going to run this program, what will happen? So now if I run this program, while the condition is true, print hello, it comes back. Again the condition is true, it just goes continuously indefinite. So let us see. You can see this program just indefinitely it is running. So if there is an indefinite program, to come out of the program, you have to press Ctrl C. Basically that is a keyboard interrupt. You can see here, it just terminates the program. Whenever you have the program is getting into an indefinite loop and it is not stopping, just press the Ctrl C button so that it just terminates a particular program. Fine. Now there are conditions like that. Now how do we come out of these particular kind of condition? For example, the previous program, the password program, I just want to change it. So initially the password program, what we have written is like this. Let me just paste the same thing. Okay. So I'm saying that here, if the password is equal to secret, then you do it. Let me just do one small change here. I just remove this condition. I just say while true. So now here, it keep on asking the password and for the input. Now what I am going to do is I write a small if condition. If the password is equal to secret, then you can do break. So now we can see here this code. I want to explain this code. You see, for example, this is while true. This is always true. That means this loop will continuously go. You ask the user for a password. So there is something called, I have used input. Input is basically get the input from the user. So whenever you have an input function, how the print function will print it to the screen. Same way when you have an input function, this will get the input from the user. It will wait for the input from the keyboard. So I use an input function. So whatever I inputting from the keyboard, that will be stored in the value called password. Then whatever is stored in that container, whether it is, if it is not equal to secret, okay, so here this condition is wrong. I should make it if it equal to secret, then you do break. That means you come out of it. That means password and whatever the secret value both are same, you come out. Otherwise you just continuously get into this loop. So let us just execute this and see what is the output it's going to give. Okay, now I say enter the password. I just give some passwords. You see, it's just keep asking the password. But the moment I type secret, it just comes out. So this is how you can use the break statement. Now hope you understand how to use the break statement. Now let us also, we will see a continue. There is another statement called continue. Let us see how to use the continue statement. So I'm just going to paste a program and just explain the program to save the time. Okay, let me just cut this program. I have a program written for this already. Okay, so now we can see here there's a value I assign to this, and it is, if it is less than 5, I do spam. When I say plus equal to, this is nothing but spam is equal to spam plus 1. Instead of that, you can simply write spam plus equal to 1. And if the spam is 3, then you continue. Continue means it again comes back to this. It won't print this. Because if you look at after this colon, these all are one single block. So after this condition execute, the whole block will get executed. Now here inside that we have another condition. So we have a colon here. That means this is another block, which is specifically for this particular if statement. Now let us see how this program works. So we can see, I'll just run this program, show it here, and also show it in a visualized way of look at this program. So I just run this program. I think I just made a mistake here. You have to see there is no variable, so you can see there are errors given very nicely. The variables are not there and all those stuff informations are given. So just save this code and I just run this. Okay, still I have not saved the code, sorry. Run this code. So you can see here there's 1, 2, but 3 is missing here, and 4, 5. So what's happening in this code? So let us cut this code and just get into Python visualization. I just remove this and I paste it. I just execute this. Now we can see here I'm just doing the next. Initially spam is 0. The condition is true. Spam is equal to spam plus 1, that is 1. So if the spam is equal to 3 or not, no, it is not. Then it just go to the print. Just print spam is 1. It's got printed. Now you see next time it goes here. It goes here. Now the spam is 2. So it again prints it. Now the third time when it's come, now you see the spam, the value of spam is 3. Now it's 3. Now if it's equal to 3, it just continue. What will happen when I do a continue? It comes to continue. Look at the statement continue. It just go back. It won't further. It go to the below whatever the statements are there. It won't go. It continue means again it continue back to the while. So now the spam 3 is not got printed. Now when I go to the next one, now the spam is 4. Now if we go here, now you see the 4 is printed and now the 5 is printed. Once that is done, the condition, while condition exists, it just comes out. So it's how easy, when you are using a while loop with a continue statement. Hope you guys understand this while loop. So this is quite easy, we can use it. But there is another loop, it's basically called for loop. So this for loop is, another kind of a loop. But here you can execute the code again and again as long as some condition is true. That's it. But that is for the while loop. But for loop, what it does is you can specify whether the condition is true or false. You want to execute how many number of times, you can specify it. So that many number of times, basically that is called iterations. It just get executed. So let us see a small example how to write this for program. So let me just go here. I'll remove the code whatever we written earlier. So I can just say, just give a print statement, simple print statement. So I can say hello. Okay, and I just write a, just to make sure there is a statement got printed. You can say for, I just declare a variable I in, I can say range. Let me explain this, range of 5. Okay, and I say print, I say JP, I can say the string JP, and I come and I want to print this I. What will happen? Let us just go through this now. Let me execute this code and let me go through the code also. So when I run this, you can see here there's a hello came and there's a JP0, JP1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the 4 values have come. So what does this mean? So for example here, okay, when you say for, this is a statement for I in range of 5. So what do you mean by range of 5? So you need to understand this range. Let's get into our shell. When you say range is a object, when you say range of 5, it's given 0 to 5. That means 0 to 5 means 0 is less than or equal to 5. That many values are given. So you can also specify in the range, you can say 1 comma 5. So that means it gives the value from 1 to 5. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 up to that. So same way you can specify steps also. So suppose you want to say 1 to 10 and you want to have some 2 to like 3, 5, 7 like that, you can specify it. Let us see how to use these kind of things in our code. Just to give an idea of what is a range, I've just typed these stuffs. So here when I say range of 5, that means it has the value of 0, comma 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. So that means there are 5 values are there for this range. So whenever the range which execute in this loop, initially the I is become 0. Then when you say print JP, this is the string which you are going to print, the value of I is 0. Then automatically it gets incremented by 1. By default it gets incremented by 1. So the first value is 0, now it's become 1. Then after that it's become 2, 3, 4. Up to that it comes. So when you execute this particular code, you can see here JP0, JP1, JP2, JP3, JP4. So now whatever the condition you give inside this particular block, that is block means whenever you have a colon, after that you will have the block of statement which comes under this. So whether the condition is true or false, this will execute 5 times. So this is what a for loop. Hope you understand the difference between a while and a for loop. While basically works on condition. If the condition is false, it just comes out of the loop. But for doesn't care about the condition. It on number of iterations you specify, according to that particular iteration it just prints it. So now let me just quickly show this range function here. When I say I instead of JP, I just say simply I. So we know it just prints 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So same thing, I just want to say I want to print from 1 to 10. So now when I run this, it won't print the 0 because I say they start from 1. If I say 10, this is the last number, that is less than this particular number. That means 1 to 9 will be printed. Same thing, I can also specify the step. If I specify 2, that means 1, 3, 5, like that it should print. Now let us see how it's getting printed. You can see 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So that's all about the for loop. So for basically it's just a specific number of times it gets executed. So we use the range function, which basically range function also has 3 kind of arguments. That is for initial, and you will have the when to stop, and of course the last one is the stop. The step. So you will be able to do that. So same way you can use the break statement and continue statement in the for to do that. So hope you guys understand this for loop, how it works. Okay. So let me just quickly get into the next slide, so which is about functions. So when it comes to a function, so basically you no need to write any kind of the code by yourself. There are a lot of built-in functions are available. That means it's already written for you. For example, print is a function. When you within the print, you give whatever you give, it will be just printed into onto the screen. So you can have this print function. So it's like that. There are many built-in functions are available. It comes with Python. So while doing the coding, you will come to know. We've seen input function, we've seen print function, we have seen type function, we have seen int function. So like that, you have many functions are there, and you can also write your own functions. And also we'll see how we can global and local scopes and all. Fine. So let me just quickly get into the built-in function we've already seen. We will see. Suppose if there are new functions are available in a different module, how do we do that? For example, I have a function called random. Okay, so I want to generate the random number. So for that, there is no direct function available until you need to use a particular library. So how do we use that library here? So Python provides import. As a function, import is a statement. You can say import random. So when I say import random, that means this particular library is getting included into this particular program. Then only I can use the functions which are available in the random. So for example, I can say print, I can say random of rand int of, I can specify for example 1, 10. So the meaning here is rand int is a function which takes the value 1 and 10. That means I want to generate the random number between 1 and 10. So whenever I execute this program, I want a number randomly generated. So now let us see. I'm just saving this program and run this program. So you can say now 9. Again I'm running it. I get 6. Again I get 10. You see, this is how you can use another library. If you want to use another library, you do an import and you give the name of the library. That means that library will be imported in this particular code. Fine. So this import can be used in multiple ways. So what I can do is, instead of import, when I say import random, all the functions which are available in the random, I should be able to use it. But there is another way of using this. So I can say from as the random in this library, I can say import star. So this is also I can say use all the functions available. In this case, I don't need to specify this particular random. I can just say simply a rand int. So because I'm from this random, I'm importing all the functions, so the functions are known here, so I can directly use the function here. So I'm just saving this and just execute the same thing. You can see just execute the values like this. So now I just showed you quickly the built-in functions and how to import the built-in functions and all those steps. Now we can also write our own functions. I'm not sure whether how much time I have, because it's taking little time. Is it okay if I take another 15 minutes or so, madam? Hello, Geeta ma'am, you there? Hello? Shall I? Anybody else can answer this? Shall I go for another 15 minutes so that I'll complete the complete session? Okay. Thank you very much, Priya. Okay, fine. Let me just get into the function quickly. So we've seen what is a built-in function, and we've seen how to write our own function. So writing our own function is very simple. We are not limited to use only the built-in function. We can define, as I said, we can define our own function using a statement called def. Def is a definition. That's a defining a function. So you can write a group of code which is inside that function, which makes your program is very shorter and easier to debug. And also the idea of function is to avoid the duplication of code. So let me just quickly show the function. So I'm just remove all these stuffs. Just write a simple function def hello. So the name of the function is hello. So you see how I'm defining. This is the statement. I say def. The name of the function what I'm defining is hello. So basically the function will have open and close parentheses. This may contain parameters also. Let us see that how we can pass the parameter. And it has a colon. That means after that what you are writing is a block of code for this particular function. So I'm just say print. It maybe say hello world. Maybe I can give another print. I can say welcome. And I can say another print. say good day. So I just have three statements inside the hello. So how do I call this function? I just say hello. Just the open and close braces. Suppose if I call this three times, if I want to call it, I just have to call it 3 times. That's it. Wherever I want to call this, I can call it 3 times. So let me just execute this code and see what's happening. So I can see here, so this is printed 3 times. This got printed 3 times because I've called this particular function 3 times. So any kind of a code which you don't want to repeat and you want to keep it in a function and you want to call it again and again, you can write it as a function so that you will be able to call from your code from anywhere. Okay. Now let me see a simple same function with a simple parameter. Suppose if I want to pass some parameter. So for example, I want to say hello, the name I want to pass it. So whenever I say JP, it has to say maybe hello JP. Suppose if I say, whenever I say Kishore, it's a hello Kishore. So whenever I say Priya, it's a hello Priya. So I want to do that. So how do I do that? So I've passed this particular value here. How do I receive the value in the function? So you can have the name for that. I can just give any name. It's a variable name. I just give a name as name. That means this name will be received in this particular function. Now I'm going to print the name also. I just give a command name. So now it's supposed to do, maybe I just print it in the welcome instead of here. Just print in the welcome. I just say name. Okay, it makes more sense. I just save this. Let me run this program and see what's happening. So I can see the first one when say hello world, welcome JP and good day. So because I am passing this particular JP as a value to this function. So that means name is the parameter. This is the parameter. This is the value I am passing. This is basically an argument. The first one argument, single argument I am passing in this function. This will be received by this particular parameter. That is the name. And this will be this function, whatever the block is there, that block is printed. But here we will be able to access this particular name. So it's easy. So now first this is called. So that's why it's called welcome JP. You can look at the second time when it is printing. It says welcome Kishore. Third time you can say it's welcome Priya. So this is how you will be able to pass the values to the function as a parameter, and that can be, you can do some calculations and all those stuff. Let me quickly show you a calculation. Instead of hello, I make it as a add. Maybe I want to send 2 numbers. Maybe say number 1, comma number 2. So I can pass multiple parameters. I'll remove all this print statement which doesn't make sense. Maybe I can say print. So I can say number 1 plus number 2. So now I'm just removing these statements. Instead of hello, I will say add. Let's pass 2 numbers, 34, 56, something like that. I'm passing the number. Now what will happen? Let us see. I save this program. When you run this, you can see the number, we get the answer 90. That means these 2 numbers, the 34 will be automatically goes to this first parameter and 56 will be assigned to the second parameter. So that means the number 1 and number 2 will have, number 1 will have 34, number 2 will have 56. Then we are printing because we will be able to access these values inside the function because we are passing this as a parameter, adding these 2 values and we are printing the result. That's why we are getting 90. So hope you guys, just to give a glimpse of a function, how we can use at the top level. So let me get into a little bit of the scoping. I'm not giving a deep dive into the function, but that may take a very the long time is required. So I'm just trying to give a touch base on all these stuff so you get an idea to start Python programming. So okay, fine. So let me get into this global and local scope. What do you mean by this? So it's basically using a local and global variables in the code. So how do we do that? I just have some code which I just pasted to save the time. So let me just get here. Let me explain that after once I pasted this. Okay. So I have, you can see there is a function I have defined here, and inside the function I have said x is equal to 99, and I am calling this function and I'm just trying to print these eggs. Okay, so now let us see what will happen. So when I run this code, so you get an error, name error, that is name eggs is not defined. So what do you mean by that? So now the x is defined inside this particular function. It cannot be accessed outside the function. This is outside the function. These all are outside the function. So anything which is inside the function, this is how the scopes. The variables which are declared inside the function cannot be accessed outside the function. So now if you want to do that, if you want to access that particular value, so you can make it as a globally you can access it. You can access globally. For example, I'm just changing this little bit. I take this print egg, let's put it here, and here I will just say eggs is equal to 99. So what I'm saying is there is a function here, and then it just execute this, because this is a function definition. We are not executing the function, it's a definition. When comes here x is equal to 99, then we call the span function. So when you call the span function, this function will get executed. Because this is a global variable, now you will be able to access this 99. So when you just execute this code, I'll just save this. So you can say you will be able to get this 99. The same thing, let us see another example. So if you call from one function to another function, so how these values are getting accessed. So I'm just pasting this code to save the time. So we have a function called span. So that function has value x is equal to 99, and I'm going to call another function. I've written two functions, so another called bacon. So here I'm printing the x. So here and here I'm also saying that x is equal to 0. I'm just trying to do that. So what I'm trying to do is there's a bacon I'm calling. So this function makes this x is equal to 0. Now what will happen? Let us just see this. I think maybe I can put it in a visualization that will make more clear for you all. So I just go here, I just edit this code. So here I'm just put this code, I just want to execute this. So when I say visualize, okay, this is first initially a function definition, so there's nothing to execute here. I just do a next. It comes to the, you can see there is a function definition. It's a span is a function, it's just defined, and I do a next. Now the second function bacon is also defined, that's a function defined, nothing. Now only we are going to call the span. So when I do a span, it calls a span function. Now it goes to the next. When I do a next, you can see egg is 99, and from here we are calling the bacon function, just goes to the bacon. So now x is 99 in the span. Now when I just say next, so it says ham is equal to 101, it's come here, and x is equal to 0. See, any function which doesn't have any return value, it is just simply returns none. So now the bacon function has x is equal to 0. Now when I go back and when I print the x, I get only 99, because whatever the value you declare inside this function is only can be accessed here. You cannot access this variable into some other function. So now hope you understand what is a global, which we have seen earlier, and what is a local. So this is a local scope. So this is local to this function. So this is how you can, if you are having a assignment which is inside the function, okay, as a local variable, that means what will happen, that is just it is local to that. If you are not assigned anything, but if you are going to access the value, that means it is a global variable. So this is a simple understanding of what is the function and how you can use the function. Let me move to the next topic. So quickly, I have only two more topics. One is handling errors is one topic, and I'll try to write a simple program and explain a game program which will help you to understand. Yes.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Sir, we have only 10 minutes time, sir.
Yeah,
I need to move to next class too.
Okay, fine. So what I will do is maybe I can just with this maybe I can stop. Maybe I can leave another 10 minutes for questions. So if the people have questions, they can ask me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe I can leave that. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me see what kind of questions you are asking and whether I will be able to answer your questions.
Thank you, Students, if you have any queries, it's that time to ask. You can put on the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and ask the question.
So the no question is nothing but either you understood completely or you've not understood. So fine, hope guys, you guys are very smart. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Sir, for gaming concepts and all, we shall use this Python programming code, sir.
Yeah, the why I'm saying that, yeah, correct. So it is the programming, mainly gaming, why Python is so important. It is not necessary only Python can be used. Even gaming can be done in C, can be done in Java also. The gaming, it has lot of calculations, and there are lot of mathematical calculations and all is there. So if you take a language like C, you need to write for everything on your own. If you take Java, also you need to write most of the libraries are not there. Java is mainly for enterprise kind of an application only you can develop. But Python is getting into hardcore engineering, in the sense like any kind of analytics, artificial intelligence. That means you see how much amount of libraries, the mathematical libraries it has a support. So you no need to reinvent any wheel. So it is already there. You should know how to use that particular library, so that your life will become more easier. So I would say that if you know Python, and it's not only knowing the Python you can write some gaming program. No, that's not correct. Definitely you should have a very good mathematical knowledge. If you have that, it's very easy to create a gaming program. Suppose you want to get into some analytics and all, you should have a mathematical and statistical knowledge. And suppose you want to get into an artificial intelligence, of course you should have a lot of mathematical knowledge, then you can get into that. Hope ma'am I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No more questions, right? Okay, that was the end
So
of the
students,
session.
if you got any doubt, you can ask.
Yeah, maybe I need the last one minute or so to just to tell me a little more information about myself. So otherwise I'm good. So once you are done, please tell me. Just maybe in a minute or so I will just explain that what I'm
So
doing.
yes, sir, you shall tell now, sir.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. So actually I've just completed my slide. So I just want to give you guys, I am also running a YouTube channel. So it's called U Academy. So I'm completely running this channel in Tamil. So I'm not speaking English in this channel. So basically I'm from a Tamil medium. So what I was thinking is, people like me, when we studied computers, we struggled a lot with the terminologies and all those stuff. So what I thought is, people like me, it will be really useful. So I have created a complete Python course. It's completely free course. It is available on the Python. And I'm creating a lot of courses like Django and all. It's a web technology. And I'm going to create a course on another like artificial intelligence and data science and all those stuffs. So you can get into this my YouTube channel, and you can read all these stuff. All the videos are very small videos. You don't need to spend hours together, and just per day you go to one single topic, and maybe a matter of month you will be good in Python. Okay, and I am also running a course for Linux, Python and Java and all those stuff. If you people are interested, maybe you can contact me on these numbers, or this jp@netphoenix.com or kishore@netphoenix.com. Through mail also you can communicate. You can note my number. So these are the 3 numbers you will be able to communicate with us. So if you are interested, so I'm not telling you, and especially if you guys come from Hindustan, definitely I'll have very special discounts. I'm not behind the money. I give definitely a great discount for you guys. So this is all just I want to share with you all. Please, ma'am, I'm done, ma'am. And I would like to thank all the students who participated in this session. Hope this session will be useful and give some kind of a light, so that you can start Python and start working on Python. Thank you very much to all, and thank you very much to the staffs and madam and all.
Thank you, sir. Monica?
Okay, that was the end of the session. I invite Keertana to handle the vote of thanks. Over to you, Keertana.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to present the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I would like to thank our guest, webinar speaker, Mr. Jay Prakash, for visiting an interesting thing, and the Python programming was really informative. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Jay Prakash for taking out time from the busy schedule and enlightening us with the knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank our Honorable HOD, Mr. V. Saravanan sir, for moral support and guidance. A special thanks to the organizer, our beloved Mrs. G.S. Geethamani ma'am, for support and coordination. I am very happy to express vote of thanks to you, ma'am. And thanks to our staff members. I want to thank the student committee for making this event successful. And also thanks to our students for active participation. I would end my speech. Thank you.